In the brief film segment where I talked about what is politics that you've already seen, I emphasized the fact that politics concerns a struggle over who gets what. That the essence of politics is this struggle that goes on between different interest groups in society, different segments of society, about who gets more and who gets less. Sometimes it's a struggle over money, who gets more money, who gets less money. Sometimes it's a struggle over prestige, who gets more, who gets less. Sometimes it's a struggle over education. Sometimes it's a struggle over simply one group's conception of reality versus another group's conception of reality. But in any case, politics is, as I've said, this struggle over who gets what, which would suggest then that political decisions are those decisions which actually, in fact, allocate more or less to some groups. And typically these political decisions are made in Congress, or maybe they're made in the courts, or in some cases even the executive branch of government. But they're decisions where, for example, Congress decides to allocate subsidies to cotton farmers. Obviously this means that Congress is determining to give a substantial amount of money, in the case of cotton farmer subsidies, to cotton farmers. That money's coming from someplace, so it's coming from those people who aren't cotton farmers, so that means some people are getting more and some people are getting less. Government also allocates resources to fishermen in some cases. They allocate resources, and we've seen how they've allocated resources to automobile companies. We know that Congress and government has allocated money to certain industries in this country so that they can more easily sell their products overseas. These are all examples of government choices that allocate, that give something to somebody, and typically to do that they have to take resources from somewhere else. Most of what we think about in terms of political decisions are decisions that are active decisions. Government decides to give subsidies to cotton farmers. Government decides to give subsidies to students. But it's important when you're thinking about political decisions to remember that political decisions can also take the form of a non-decision. And when I say a non-decision, what do I mean? I mean a decision to do nothing, essentially. Oftentimes, government can allocate resources by deciding to do nothing. There is no better example, I think, to get this point across to students than to direct your attention to the current struggle in Congress over the possibility of allowing interest rates on student loans to double. These interest rates are scheduled to double very shortly, and Congress is left debating about what to do. Some people in Congress don't want to do anything and thereby allow the interest rates that students pay on their student loans to double. Other people in Congress want to act. They want to provide government subsidies so that the interest rates, the lower interest rate that students are currently paying, continue to stay low. We don't know how this is going to be resolved at this particular moment, but we do know that it's possible, indeed there's a good possibility, that Congress will decide to do nothing. And of course, If it decides to do nothing, it will, in fact, have made an allocated decision. In this case, the decision would be students are going to pay twice as much as they have been paying for their student loans, and that money is going to be used somewhere else. The money the government was spending to subsidize the lower interest rates is going to be used somewhere else. It may go to pay the national debt, or it may go to some other interest group that has a pet project that they would like government to fund. So when you think about political decisions, you'll always have to think about the possibility that a political decision is in fact a non-decision. One of the articles that I've asked you to read in the unit, the first unit here, is an article that deals with what government knew about the risks of drilling before the terrible oil spill recently in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a wonderful illustration of a government decision not to do anything to curb those risks, and thereby a wonderful illustration of a political non-decision. And these non-decisions can be impactful, every bit as much so as an active decision. I always use the example, if somebody is drowning in a lake and you are walking along and you see the person waving and screaming and, please help me, throw me a life vest, I'm drowning. And you walk along and you think, well, I don't know, I'm in a hurry to get to class, and I don't know whether in fact I really have time to throw the life vest, or if I throw the life vest, I may pull a muscle in my arm, and I don't know if I really want to do that. I don't want to get involved, perhaps you think. And so you decide perhaps not to throw the life vest. Well, your decision to do nothing, obviously, has been quite impactful to that person who's drowning. And so political non-decisions can be just as powerful as political decisions. And that's something you should keep in mind when you think about politics. Are you seeing a non-decision? Because they can be some of the most interesting of all political decisions.